The digital menus hanging in your local fast food drive-thru or lobby were almost certainly born in a perfectly lit studio. A designer sat 18 inches away from a high-resolution, color-calibrated monitor and crafted a layout with pristine typography and subtle brand colors. But the physical reality of a quick-service restaurant is entirely different. Customers are reading these boards under harsh fluorescent overheads or intense sunlight, competing with reflections, glare, and a chaotic queue. Approving a design at 18 inches fails to simulate a customer viewing a screen from 12 feet away. When customers can't read the board, they stall. Every second spent squinting is a second of throughput lost at the register. To end the frustration of struggling with a washed-out display, customers pivot to familiar, basic defaults. This safe order tax effectively blocks the discovery of higher-margin items or new promotions, as customers take the path of least cognitive resistance. Aesthetic perfection in a mock-up often directly creates functional failure in the field. The elegant, thin fonts and subtle color palettes that win design awards are exactly what cause customers to abandon new promotional items. Menu legibility functions as a rigid mathematical formula. To guarantee readability, the design must solve three physical constraints: the viewing distance, the contrast ratio, and the layout density. Digital menu boards are high-speed user interfaces. Every typographic choice, color pairing, and column width must be measured by how efficiently it moves a customer through the transaction. This top-down wireframe establishes the spatial constraint. The distance from queue to screens is typically 15 feet. To guarantee legibility, we apply the 1 inch per 10 feet rule. At 15 feet, the minimum height for a physical letter is 1.5 inches. We translate that physical inch measurement into digital pixels based on the commercial hardware's resolution. Looking at a standard 1080p 55-inch display from 12 feet away, critical text like item names and prices must measure between 45 to 55 pixels tall. That calculation sets the baseline, but a biological constraint requires pushing the math further: presbyopia. Presbyopia is the natural loss of the eye's ability to focus on nearby objects. As customers age, sharp typographic edges degrade into soft smudges. This affects the over 50 demographic. These customers possess substantial discretionary income, dine out frequently, and represent a highly profitable segment of restaurant traffic. To accommodate their visual acuity, standard pixel minimums must increase by 25 to 40%. Graphic designers building these assets are typically in their 20s, possessing excellent vision, and reviewing their work up close. They don't experience this biological shift. Failing to scale font sizes to the queue distance and your customer's biological reality renders the menu invisible to your most profitable buyers. The second critical lever is contrast ratio. Size alone cannot save a font if the text and background color values are too similar. Setting light gray text on a white background or placing prices directly over the busy textures of food photography destroys readability entirely. To fix this, we follow the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, which provide mathematical standards for luminance differences. This luminance scale tracks the difference between text and its background. The absolute minimum contrast required for basic legibility is 4.5 to 1. But 4.5 to 1 assumes a controlled lighting environment. It fails against intense ambient light or direct window glare inside a restaurant. For operational deployment, the target contrast ratio for critical information must be 7 to 1. As eyes age, the lens yellows, severely reducing sensitivity to light and dark differences. A 7 to 1 ratio guarantees the text cuts through both environmental glare and reduced visual acuity. Typographic weight supports this math. Item names require medium weights. Prices require heavy, bold letter forms. Ultra-thin weights, condensed fonts, and script styles must be strictly eliminated from digital menus. They lose definition and vanish entirely under bright lights. Hardware cannot fix bad design. Upgrading to a 4000 nit high-brightness outdoor screen will not salvage a menu that lacks fundamental structural contrast. The final physical constraint is layout density. Operators often feel compelled to squeeze their entire point-of-sale database onto a single digital panel. This heat map simulation of a packed 25-item layout shows the immediate result. Visual hierarchy collapses. The eye tracking lines jump frantically across the grid, unable to locate a clear anchor item or category header. The absolute hardware limit for a 55-inch display is 12 to 16 items. Anything beyond that creates severe cognitive overload. Capping the item count forces operational discipline, prioritizing high-margin items. When we strip away clutter, expand whitespace by 30%, and lock into a clean 14-item grid, the customer's eye immediately stabilizes onto core items and prices. Proper whitespace provides the cognitive breathing room required for a customer to process individual choices. The strict spacing rules dictate 1.5 times the line height between individual items and 2.5 times the line height between categories. This precise spacing allows the brain to rapidly categorize information without confusing adjacent prices or descriptions. Faster visual processing speeds up the decision-making loop, which directly translates to faster ordering and increased throughput at the register. Sparse, highly structured layouts generate more revenue by accelerating queue velocity during peak hours, converting high-density traffic into completed transactions before customers abandon the line. Translating these mathematical theories back into the physical reality of the restaurant environment requires a rigorous evaluation process. The menu board functions as a high-speed transactional tool. To enforce these standards, every operator must run a mandatory evaluation protocol before deployment, the 15-foot squint test. First, load the proposed design onto a commercial display at the actual installation height. Never review the final files on a laptop or a tablet. Next, step back exactly 15 feet from the hardware. This replicates the physical distance of the customer queue. Finally, look at the display and squint heavily. This blurred image simulates presbyopia, environmental glare, and rapid visual processing all at once. The pass-fail criteria is absolute. If prices and anchor items cannot be instantly identified through the squint, the design fails the engineering specification and goes back for revision. Enforcing these mathematical limits will cause friction with creative agencies who want to prioritize aesthetics. Operations teams must hold the line. True design success is measured exclusively by the velocity and value of the orders it produces at the register.